Hi, I'm Jordan.
And I'm Kit.
Welcome to Starry Time, where stars plus lines.
Equal Stories.
This week we'll be exploring the pop culture of the constellation Cepheus, the king.
Yeah, so last week we talked all about the myths and we constellationed them. And so now we're just going to be a little bit more silly and talk about our favorite and least favorite occurrences of Cepheus in pop culture. Then, of course, we'll take over the brand, we'll wish upon a star for what we wish existed, and then we'll wrap it all up. So, Jordan, do you want to start off with your favorite pop culture appearance of Cepheus?
Kit, I'd be happy to. My first question I have for you is, are you familiar with the two words odds bodkin?
Yes.
What kind of stories would Odd Bodkin tell?
So Oswalkin is a storyteller who would retell tell the Iliad or other Greek myths or the Odyssey. I feel like I had a multi-disc CD of the like Oswalkin's retelling of one of those, maybe the Odyssey for sure.
I actually do think it was the Odyssey.
Yeah.
So, from this retelling of the Odyssey, do you
Uh-huh.
happen to remember a character called Cepheus?
No, I don't.
Ah, Kit. I was wondering if this could count as pop culture, given that
Hmm.
it's a character in the Odyssey. But
Well,
I remembered it was not only pop culture, it's pop culture that had a poster on your wall. So
that's
let me
true. That's true.
refresh your memory here.
Uh-huh.
Cepheus does appear in the story of the
Hmm.
Odyssey as one of the comrades of course, the Greek hero Odysseus.
Hmm.
Cepheus, along with 11 others, come to port close to Sicily, where they are captured, seized, and confined by the Cyclops Polyphemus.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, Odysseus uses his clever wits to outsmart the Cyclops, but not before half of these 12 men die,
Mm.
including Antiphon, Euryleon, Aphetus,
Hmm.
Stratios, Manitos, and a certain comrade named Cepheus. So I would say my favorite appearance of Cepheus in pop culture is as Cyclops food for Polyphemus in the Odyssey, which I went through a lot of work to prove is still pop culture. Kit,
Uh, well, did you know that? So you're talking about. So we've talked about Cepheus the king in the Andromeda story and the Cassiopeia story. We've just talked about in the Odyssey, but there's also another Cepheus in Greek mythology, Cepheus of Arcadia. That's a whole other mythology related to Cepheus that is not this Cepheus.
I looked into that myth as well, and it's pretty
Yeah.
great. In the Cepheus of Arcadia's case, he has 20 sons,
Mm-hmm.
and after much debating and back and forth, Hercules persuades Cepheus and his sons to join him in a war against the king of Sparta,
Mm-hmm.
who is known as Hippocune.
Mm,
Interesting name.
that's a good name.
Anyways, the coolest part of the myth is that Hercules gives Cepheus's daughter a lock of Medusa's hair,
Mm.
which
Like a
Athena,
snake?
yeah, which Athena, well, I guess a lock of Medusa's hair technically could just be, yeah. Um,
Right.
apparently, that Athena says that if you hold up this snake lock 3 times from the city walls, that any enemy advancing on the city would turn away in flight.
Hmm.
So who knows if Athena was telling the truth or she just really didn't care very much for Cepheus's family. But long story short, Cepheus of Arcadia dies in this war against Sparta, along with 17 to 20 of his kids.
Of his
According to
sons. Uh,
Apollodorus, all 20 sons are killed,
yeah.
whereas historian Diodorus Siculus says all were killed except for 3. So
Mm.
17 to 20 of his kids.
Yeah, but the other Cepheus, I will say for the other Cepheus, he's got a better myth, or at least he's like a more well-developed character than Cepheus from the Constellation. So, but yeah, that was not my favorite selection, although I did read about Cepheus of Arcadia. I didn't really find much that I was really excited about seeing. Um, I did see there was like something in the Soul Calibur universe to do with Cepheus,
Mm-hmm.
but I haven't played Soul Calibur since like Soul Calibur 2. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
that's the one we had, right?
1998, yeah, somewhere
Yeah,
around there.
we
Yeah.
had that's the one we had. So I was like, I don't know what this is, and some kind of store, and I was like, well, that makes no sense to me. So I decided to sort of go with one of my fallbacks that isn't the Stargate, which was Acrea Cepheus, which is a butterfly that is found in Africa, various parts of Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, yeah, it's a really beautiful butterfly. Anytime I'm out, walking in nature and I see a butterfly, like I just feel so delighted. And like, there's just something like really beautiful about, just like having that moment in nature and you're like, oh, you're so beautiful and sweet. So that's what I decided to go with for my pop culture appearance, which sort of like yours may or may not be pop culture, but is an appearance in the broader world.
All right. So we each gone over our favorites. Mine being Cyclops food, yours being a relatively beautiful butterfly from Africa. Now I think we should talk about our least favorite occurrences of Cepheus in pop culture.
So I had sort of like a couple of least favorites. Um so I'm going to go with my like the one I hate most, right? Like
The
the
least least. The most
right
least.
most least, yeah. You however that I don't know how words work in that case. Um so I'm going to just sort of harken back to a second to our discussion of the myths of Cepheus. And what we talked about last week was essentially that there was so little to say about Cepheus that we actually just talked about Io. So if you haven't listened to that episode
Mm.
yet, because you're like, what could you possibly say about Cepheus? Go and listen to it because we actually talked about Io, who's like a distant relative of Cepheus, an ancestor. And so I was frankly appalled
Mm-hmm.
and irritated
Mm-hmm.
that Cepheus is also the name of an impact crater on the moon. Because I'm like,
Disappointment.
yeah, I'm like, we already have a Cepheus constellation. I don't know why we need more Cepheus representation in astronomy.
As we went over last week, this guy's basically claim to fame is offering his daughter up
Mm.
as tribute, being a coward. That's it. That's
Yeah.
all he really brings to the table. It's even more offensive when you actually look up the names of impact craters on the moon.
Mm-hmm.
Like we have Tycho, we have Copernicus, we have
Mm-hmm.
Hubble, we have all of these great astronomers who actually did something with their lives.
Mm-hmm.
We have Kepler, we have Newton, and then we have Cepheus.
Mm.
Yeesh. It's kind of giving this guy way too much credit.
Way too much. So, what was your least favorite? What did you come up with for your least favorite occurrence?
Well, first of all, I don't want to live in a world where any jump cannon doesn't have a crater
Mm,
and
great point.
Cepheus does.
Mm-hmm.
Get your priorities in order, NASA.
Mm-hmm. Or
Whoever's in
whoever
charge
names
of
the moon. Yeah.
whoever's naming the move, if it's the IAU, if it's NASA, we have some notes. DM us. We'll get back to you. So my least favorite occurrence of Cepheus was actually something I hadn't thought about in a few years, which is the world of Texas Hold'em poker.
Mm.
Apparently, in a January 2015 article that was published in Science, a group of researchers, mostly from the University of Alberta, which is apparently one of many or a couple schools at least that will pay you to develop a poker bot. Well, they made an announcement in Science that they, quote, essentially weekly solved, WEAKLY, weekly solved Texas Hold'em poker with the
Mm.
development of their poker bot, which they have named Cepheus.
Which is a funny, like, but why?
I mean,
Why is it named this?
the more I read about the bot And
Yeah.
the more time I spend on the website of the company that developed it, the more I think it's wholly appropriate. Because these
That's a burn.
researchers at the University of Alberta, I think, are taking us all for a wild ride here. So, thank you for the poker bot. I hope it made people a lot of money, but you lived up to Cepheus the King's less than gold standard, and for that, you win least favorite.
Did you see also the other thing I was seeing that was least favorite is like a game called the Cepheus Protocol.
No, I did not see Cepheus
Oh,
Protocol. Tell me about that.
well, it's a video game, and my all my notes say here is I don't need a virus zombie game right now.
Fair. Or maybe ever. Yes.
Right. I was like, yes, I don't think I need that. I'm kind of out on, virus things destroying the world. I think that's just it's too soon. Don't need it. And then again, like with the naming, I'm like, but why have you named it this? I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get the reference to Cepheus unless it's a different Cepheus or I'm not sure. Yeah.
At best, there are three Cephids, which is Cepheus plural.
Yeah.
Cephids, either like dead by Spartan army,
Mhm.
dead by Polyphemus, or coward father dad loser. So
Mm.
choosing any of those for your brand name, I mean, maybe there shouldn't be a favorite other than that butterfly. All right, now that we've talked about Cepheus in every possible way, we've gone over the bugs, we've gone over the myths, we've gone over the poker bots. Now let's do our best to fill in what we wish existed with this brand.
All right. I'll start us off. It took me a really long time to come up with something. And I think it's because there's not a lot, as we talked about, not a lot going on with Cepheus. So I decided that I would sort of take that on more metaphorically. And so
Mm-hmm.
I would like to create the Cepheus couch.
Whoa, okay, tell me more about the Cepheus couch. It's alliterative, good start.
Yeah, I love that. When in doubt, alliteration helps everything. But
Key.
it's a comfy couch. It's got, it's you can lay down on it. Um, it's what better thing to represent Cepheus the king than, a place where you might take a nap. Just
Where
a
you
thing
might
that lives in a house.
Yes, where you might laze about as
Mhm.
opposed to take on the responsibilities of protecting your family.
And of course, it only comes in neutral colors, right? It's like gray, white, black. That's it. You can't get it in any fun colors. It's a very ordinary sofa, right? It's just sort of like, yeah, it's just a sofa. And that's what I came up with.
Kit, I think it's worth noting that last month what I wished was a grooming recliner,
Mm-hmm.
and this month what you've wished for is a deluxe sofa.
Napping
So
sofa.
that might say more about us as narrators than the best way to tackle these brands. To be
Oh,
fair
what?
though, what I wish existed
Mm-hmm.
also focused more on the luxury. Because what else are you going to do with Cepheus other than attribute it to the king, attribute it to royalty? And when I looked up at that constellation, I had one word come to mind: Doghouse. So my idea is Cepheus Doghouse,
Oh, that's so
treat
good.
your Canis like a king.
Oh, wow, a tagline? Are you kidding
Oh,
me?
so I've also
Wow.
looked up what the
Uh,
best dog houses money can buy are. And I think there's room in the luxury
mhm.
doghouse market for Cepheus brand to pretty much take over. There's no like Greek god themed
Wow,
doghouse
columns and
with call
stuff?
nothing. You can't get a single
Wow.
Parthenon Colosseum doghouse.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow, that's a gap in the market. If you're listening to this,
Huge
make
gap.
that happen. Make that happen.
What I'm saying is this pod is here to make you money. And if you want to appeal to the
Well, it's
nouveau
not
riche,
make
if you know someone who loves Caesar's
Wow.
palace, they
Mhm.
will love Cepheus Doghouse. There's nothing like it on the market. It's
Mhm.
basically just like cosplay your dog as like a Greek king. What do you think about that, Kit?
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. What a great idea. And people do name their dogs, like Apollo or Zeus or, all these kinds of like, Greek god names. So I think it's an amazing idea. So I literally don't have any building skills, but somebody out there, if you have these skills, it would be amazing.
Well, Kit, whether it's superior sofas or the best dog houses the Greek architects could imagine, it's only a matter of time before one of our wishes comes true.
This has been Kit,
And Jordan.
sisters, lovers of stars and stories
And we'll see you next time.
on Storytime.